So this question is making a qualitative assessment, or it's asking you to make a qualitative assessment of entropy in a non-chemical system. So you could think of A as like marbles in a jar, and you could think of B as if you just drop kicked that jar over. Maybe you broke the jar, and you just spilt the marbles all over the place. So it's asking you to determine, does A or B have more order? So you think of order. Um, Entropy is an assessment of disorder, right? So if you have a higher entropy value, your system is more disordered, which means it's less ordered, right? So if you have a system like this on A, where you seem to have more organization, um, you'll notice that the marbles are kind of stacked together in an organized way. It's geometric, kind of looks like a trapezoid here, right? Very geometrically arranged. This is going to have a entropy that is indicative of less disorder, right? So if you have less disorder, you have a lower entropy. On the contrary, in B here, you have less organization. The marbles, there's really no arrangement to their structure here. They're kind of all over the place. They're not arranged by color. And so they're more disordered. They're not even they're not even all in the jar. The jar is knocked over. They're on the floor. They're on the table. So then they ask you to make an assessment of how can you relate this to how particles behave, right? So you know from this chapter that when you learned about entropy and phases of matter, that there's a trend with entropy as you transition from a solid to a liquid and a liquid to a gas. Solids have much more order. They're much more organized because they have what's known as a lattice structure, crystalline lattice structures. The arrangement of atoms in a crystalline lattice in a solid is much more organized than when you have a liquid or a gas. So you could kind of relate A to being a solid in a way. Let's say that you have actual marbles, right? If you have actual marbles, there's not many ways that those marbles, that the molecules within each marble can move around. And then upon a greater, if you stack 12 marbles together in a jar, they're not gonna move without you disturbing them, right? Because they're solids. Liquids, on the other hand, or gases, let's say you melt the marbles, right? Now you have a free flowing liquid that has less organization. So let's say instead of marbles, we fill this jar with water. The water, once you knock over that jar, the water is going to go everywhere. There's much less organization. The water is all not in that jar. There's a much higher entropy value as you go from a solid to a liquid. So you can think about the order of marbles and the entropy of the particles being increasing from picture A to picture B. And you could think of that as if, let's say you have a liquid A in a jar, or you could think of it as ice as a solid being more organized, and then something like B, where you spill that solid or you spill that liquid on the floor, is kind of more indicative of a higher entropic or a less organized system.